Welcome back to Top 10 Scary Urban Legends, and today is about criminals. And yeah, I've been on the run since 2004 for crimes I committed, but it does not compare to the criminals we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, here are the top 10 scariest criminals that are still on the loose. Host Andrew, and let's get right into this list. Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have David Carroll. David McDonald Carroll, popularly known as The Wolf, is a notorious Canadian outlaw biker and gangster. He was a member of the elite nomad chapter of the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club in Quebec, Canada. Carroll became a fugitive in March 2001 following the 13 counts of first-degree murder he had on his name. Fortunately for him, when all this was going down, he was enjoying a tequila somewhere in Mexico, so he was basically on the run from the get-go. It also didn't help that the Canadians did not inform the Mexican authorities of his arrest in time, fearing corruption in the Mexican government. And at the time, yeah, the government was pretty corrupt, but it gave this guy time to escape even further away. Carroll was believed to have fled to Brazil, where he would be safe from extradition to Canada, as there was no extradition treaty between the two countries. However, there were rumors that he was last seen in the West Indies between 2001 and 2009. The Interpol notice on Carroll stated that the Hells Angels had chapters in more than 20 countries, and Carroll had frequently visited many of them, including Brazil, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and countries in South America and Europe. Coming in at a number 9 spot, we have the Craigslist Ripper. The Long Island criminal, also known as the Craigslist Ripper, is one of the most notorious criminals in the history of American lawbreakers. This person has been active for over 20 years and has been responsible for at least 10 victims between the year 1996 and as close as 2010. However, the true extent of their crimes is still unknown. The discovery of the Craigslist Ripper's victims began with the search for Shannon Gilbert. When authorities stumbled upon human remains in Gilgo Beach, New York, they realized they may have found a dumping ground for a serial killer. A wider search yielded 4 more bodies, and all women who used Craigslist to advertise their services. The remains of 6 more victims were later discovered, including a toddler and a cross-dressing male, adding further mystery to the person's motives. Several victims were identified, but none had any conclusive ties to the 10 victims found. Coming in at a number 8 spot, we have Alex Flores. A Honduran immigrant has lived under multiple aliases and was responsible for the brutal murder of 5-year-old Idiana de Jesus in 2000. Flores, then known as Carlos, was given shelter by a Philadelphia resident before he disappeared around the same time the girl went missing. The kidnapper was tracked down to the building where Carlos had been living, and the police found the girl's body in the basement. Carlos was already on his way to Arizona when police issued an arrest warrant. He started using his birth name Alex Flores to avoid being traced, and then had several run-ins with the law. But little did they know that he was one of FBI's most wanted men at the time. Flores was then incarcerated and deported to Honduras, and it was not until 2006 that Flores' DNA was added to the combined DNA index system, where it was found to be the positive match to the DNA found at the crime scene. Flores was added to the FBI's most wanted list under his real name, Alexis, with a $100,000 USD reward for information regarding his whereabouts. At our number 7 spot, we have Eugene Palmer. Eugene Palmer's son, John, and his wife, Tammy, lived on Eugene's property in New York with their 2 children. After their relationship started to go downhill and Tammy filed a restraining order against John, a rivalry between Eugene and Tammy ensued. This eventually led to Tammy's murder. However, 3 days before this murder, there was a tense argument between Tammy and Eugene. On September 24, 2012, Tammy was walking her children to the school bus when Eugene allegedly lurked in the bushes and fired a shotgun at her, hitting her in the arm and then fatally in the chest. Eugene fled the scene in a green Dodge Ram pickup truck and then ran through a park on foot. Despite multiple searches, authorities hasn't been able to find him. Eugene's motive for the murder is believed to be his anger towards Tammy over the restraining order, as well as her lawsuit to gain ownership of the land that he owned. Eugene remains at large, and a $100,000 reward has been offered for information leading to his capture. At number 6 spot, we have the West Mesa murders. The West Mesa murders is a case that shook Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2009, when the remains of 11 women were discovered buried in the desert on the West Mesa. Despite several suspects being named, no one has been charged with the murders to this day. The women were buried between 2001 and 2005 by an unknown assailant in an underdeveloped area within the city limits. The area was under development in 2006, and soon after, the site was disturbed, buried, and platted for residential residential developments. However, due to the 2008 housing bubble collapse, development on the West Mesa halted before housing could be built at the burial sites. Then, after neighbors complained of flooding at the plated site, the developer built a retaining wall that inadvertently exposed the bones of these people. The discovery of the remains occurred when a woman walking her dog found a human bone on the West Mesa and then reported it to police. The subsequent investigation led authorities to the remains of the 11 women and girls, as well as a fetus buried in the area. To this day, the case remains unsolved and the criminal is expected to still be out there and at large. In the hump of our list, we have Arnoldo Jimenez. Arnoldo Jimenez, a man from Illinois, has been added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list for allegedly murdering his wife less than 24 hours after their wedding. Pretty harsh. Jimenez is accused of stabbing his wife until she passed in his Maserati before dragging her body into the bathtub of her apartment in Burbank, Illinois. He was charged with first-degree murder and a state warrant was issued for his arrest in 2012. A federal arrest warrant was also issued after Jimenez was charged federally with an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Jimenez's addition to the list highlights the severity of this crime and the FBI's commitment to finally bring him to justice, but as of now, he's still out there. Number 4, the Khobar Tower perpetrators. In 1996, 19 US Air Force personnel lost their lives in a bombing that occurred in Saudi Arabia at the Khobar Towers. The FBI believes that the attack was carried out by a group known as Hezbollah. And we're not talking about Hezbollah. Take that out of your mind. Despite several suspects being named, none have been caught, and the FBI believes that at least 4 individuals were involved in planning and carrying out the attack. These individuals are believed to have been the members of the Saudi Arabia Hezbollah organization and may have ties to Iran. Number 3, Jason Derek Brown. Jason Derek Brown is a notorious American fugitive who has been on the run for over a decade. He is wanted for first-degree murder and armed robbery in Phoenix, Arizona, where he allegedly shot and killed an armored car guard outside a movie theater in November 2004 and then fled with the stolen money. The FBI placed him on their 10 most wanted list on December 8, 2007, making him the 489th fugitive to be listed. Despite numerous efforts to capture him, Brown has managed to evade authorities and still remains at large to this day. Number 2, the Oakland County criminal. The Oakland County criminal was a terrible person that plagued the community of Oakland County for decades. This unidentified criminal is responsible for the passing of at least 4 innocent children between the years 1976 and 1977. The killer's twisted routine was to bathe each child before committing the heinous crimes, leading FBI profilers to suggest that this criminal had a very twisted parental instinct. Then in 2012, investigators were able to create a DNA profile of this killer, and it led the chase to a convicted criminal named Arch Edward Sloan, who assaulted a 10-year-old boy back in 1983. However, when he was brought into more testing, he ended up failing the polygraph test about the murders. But regardless, he is still serving a life sentence, so don't worry. Number 1, Victor Manuel Gerena. Victor Manuel Gerena is an American fugitive wanted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the September 1983 White Eagle armed robbery. This man stole $7 million in cash, and at the time, it was the largest cash robbery in the US history. On May 14, 1983, Gerena became the 386th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. He remains at large, and on April 11, 2010, became the fugitive to have spent the most time on this list, surpassing Donald Eugene Webb, who was removed from this list on March 31st, 2007 after 25 years, 10 months, and 27 days. There was no leads for many years and Webb was presumed dead. Gerena was removed from this list on December 15, 2016 after 32 years. Well, these are the top 10 scariest criminals that are still on the loose. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some suggestions for some future videos. We want to know that too. I'm Youssef, and be sure to click that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell notification so you never miss a future video again. Hope you guys have a scary day.